when I received Ryan's message. I was out on a field trip with my professor. He sent a photo and asked me which bag I liked. I casually replied, "Any is fine." By the time I opened my phone again, less than 5 minutes later, Helen had also sent me a picture. She wrote, "He's with me trying on wedding dresses." Ryan was getting married, and I was the last to know. During our 5 years together, I never once asked him if he loved me. It seems I never need to ask again. Chapter 1. I was a student sponsored by the Ryan family. I had been selected not only for my outstanding academic record, but also because I bore a striking resemblance to their youngest daughter who had passed away. The first time I met Ryan, I was wearing a faded school uniform, holding a medal, standing on the platform in the schoolyard. My homeroom teacher pointed to a man not far away and said, "Amelia, that's your sponsor." A middle-aged man in a tailored suit sat nearby, nodding and smiling at the stage, but my eyes landed on the young man beside him, Ryan, 23, also in a suit, calm and composed. Even though I stood on the podium, it felt like I was the one looking up to him. That was Ryan's first business trip with his father. His first time in this poor rural town. Our lives were supposed to be two parallel lines that never intersected. But the old man had projected his longing for his late daughter onto me. The moment he learned my college entrance exam scores, he had already persuaded my teacher to have me apply to a university in Beijing. I never expected Ryan would be the one picking me up at the airport. It was clear he didn't remember me at all. That day, his attitude was lukewarm, though he did mention a few tourist spots in Beijing. Finally, he smiled and said, "Grandpa's been wanting to meet you for a long time." From that day on, I was somehow absorbed into the Ryan family. There were few people my age in the entire household. So the old man casually handed me off to Ryan. He was always distant, though sometimes he'd show up near my campus and take me to dinner. Until my sophomore year, that night, I was at the Ryan's home for the old man's birthday. I waited a long time. Ryan still hadn't come home. "Amelia, call Ryan. Ask him when he's getting back." Nervously, I called him. He answered, voice low and lazy. "Just finished dinner. Grandpa made you call me. He wants you to pick me up, right?" Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was his tone, half teasing, half careless. I had just gotten my license, and something in me said yes. One dared to ask. One dared to go. When Ryan saw me, he raised an eyebrow and tossed me his car keys. It was a half-hour drive. My palms were soaked with sweat. When we got back to the house, it was already pitch black. The moment I parked, I glanced at Ryan, as if asking for praise for my first solo drive. He looked at me deeply, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. "Amelia, do you like me?" Though it was phrased as a question, his tone was full of certainty. I had thought I'd hidden it well, but he'd seen right through me. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. I didn't dare look at him, heart pounding. After a long silence, I gave up pretending. I said it directly. "Yes." He kept smiling, as if in thought or amusement. "Is that so?" In the dark, all we could hear was the sound of our breathing. No words, no movements. Then I gathered my courage. I leaned over the center console and kissed the corner of his lips. Ryan didn't pull away, but he didn't kiss back either. He just asked, "Amelia, are you sure?" Later that night, he turned the car around and took me to his apartment. I'm not sure if that counted as a confession, but from that night on, I was his, for 5 years. In a way, he was a good boyfriend. Emotionally steady, handsome, quiet, generous. But even when he sat beside me, he still felt like a mystery. I used to think, he must love me. After all, for 5 whole years, there was never anyone else. Chapter 2. I'm waiting for you outside your school. When Ryan's message came through, I had just finished an on-site inspection of a Western Zhou palace with my professor. When I'd filled out my college entrance exam form, I'd chosen archaeology at Peking University. When Grandpa and Ryan heard the news back then, doubt and confusion flashed in their eyes at the same time. A little girl, spending her days in the dirt, that's too hard. Grandpa had even asked me if I wanted to switch majors, but I genuinely liked the field. I loved the work. Ryan didn't say anything at the time. Later, after we got together, He often complained I was busier than him. Every time I went out for field work, he'd tease me with the same line, "Off you go again, sneaking your little shovel onto the site?" Now, reading Ryan's new message, I waved goodbye to my classmates and got in the car. When I opened the door, Ryan, for once, wasn't looking at his files. He glanced out the window at the fading crowd and asked carelessly, "Out with that male classmate of yours again?" The male classmate he meant was Kevin. "We're in the same major. Fieldwork together is inevitable. What's wrong?" "Nothing. Your feed's just full of photos with him." There could never be pictures of Ryan on my feed, partly because he hated photos, partly because our relationship couldn't be public. I teased him lightly, "Why? Are you jealous?" "Yes, I'm jealous." Ryan said the words but wore his usual nonchalant expression, as if it were just idle chatter. After so many years, I knew his temper. I didn't take it seriously. "Hungry?" I shook my head. "I ate with my professor on the way." Ryan smiled, voice playful, "Good. I'm hungry." It wasn't until the car stopped in the underground garage of his place that I realized his hunger and my hunger weren't the same thing. The moment we walked in, he pinned me against the entryway and kissed me fiercely. "Amelia, did you miss me?" At times like this, Ryan always turned tender. He whispered sweet nothings by my ear, eyes full of passion, unstoppable. When I came out of the shower, Ryan was in a bathrobe on the phone, looking annoyed. "Helen's back. What's that got to do with me?" "I'm not going. You all have fun. Pick out a gift for me, will you?" Consider it my welcome back present for her. I didn't know much about Helen, only that she and Ryan were childhood friends before she went abroad. It was rare to see Ryan like this. Normally he was unflappable, in control. I was curious, but I didn't ask. I quietly went to the study instead. "What are you looking at?" I hadn't noticed when Ryan came in. He leaned over and caged me in his arms, casually flipping through the papers in my hands. "Oracle bones? What?" "Amelia, planning to break into the world of ancient scripts?" I replied absent-mindedly, "Yeah, gonna crack a few characters and buy myself an apartment." Ryan chuckled, picking up my phone. "When did you become such a little money grubber?" A notification popped up, Alipay transfer, 100,000 yuan. One Oracle bone character. 100,000 as a reward. Ryan tucked my loose hair behind my ear, the smile at the corner of his lips growing deeper. "Come on, take your payment. Keep a hardworking man company for a late-night snack." Chapter 3. It was 11 at night, but Jingshoyan was still bustling with people. Ryan seemed to have a soft spot for this restaurant. He came here 2 or 3 times a month. Over the years with him, I'd gone from nervous and self-conscious to calmly walking into this high-end place and hearing people greet me with, "Miss Amelia." What I didn't expect tonight was to run into Ryan's good friend, Leonardo. He was with another man and a woman. The moment he saw me, his expression froze for a second. But he quickly smiled and greeted, "Amelia." I followed his gaze through the rising mist, and was caught by the sight of the girl beside him. "Hi, I'm Helen." So this was the Helen from that phone call. After introducing herself, she smiled and looked over at Ryan, dimples blooming at the corners of her lips. "Long time no see. Ryan, mind if we join you for dinner?" It was posed as a question, but she didn't wait for an answer before sitting down. Leonardo awkwardly motioned for the other man to sit too. Ryan's voice was cold. "Did I say you could?" I rarely saw him like this, but Helen didn't seem to mind. She flagged down a waiter and confidently ordered a few dishes. "You still love this restaurant?" "Huh." Just one sentence, but it was enough to make their history clear. My hand paused on the utensils, but quickly resumed like nothing had happened. "What's going on between you two?" the other man asked, puzzled. "Isn't Helen supposed to be your fiancé or something?" Cough, cough, cough. Leonardo choked loudly, but the man just looked confused. "What? There's no chili in this dish." Helen didn't deny it. She turned to Ryan and raised an eyebrow. In that moment, I felt like the only outsider at the table. I reached for a pastry, only for Ryan to stop me, his voice mocking, "You've eaten so much tonight, not planning to sleep later?" Then he looked over at Helen. "Who said anything about an engagement?" "I never agreed to that." "Helen, Marry whoever you want. Just don't put your sights on me. The air fell into a brief, tense silence. In those few seconds, I clearly saw the sadness flash in Helen's eyes, but she quickly collected herself, smiled as if nothing had happened. Ryan, after all these years, you're still stingy. Ryan stood up and called out, Amelia. I immediately stood and followed him outside. At the doorway, I glanced back. Helen was still seated, and she looked right at me. Our eyes met. Her gaze was calm, assured, as if declaring, I will have him. We didn't speak on the way back, until the car pulled smoothly into the garage. Ryan reached out and ruffled my hair, pulling me into his arms. She's no different from anyone else. There had always been rumors about Ryan being set up for marriage. Every time, he'd meet various heiresses under his uncle's arrangements, but it always went nowhere. But this time, Helen felt different. Ryan had always been calm. Tonight, though, he'd driven at 150 kilometers per hour and didn't even notice. My expression dimmed slightly, but I still nodded. He looked straight at me, then suddenly let out a low laugh and kissed me gently. After a while, in a husky voice, he murmured, Why are you still so obedient? On the third day, Ryan went on a business trip, which suited me just fine. The moment he left, I returned to campus. What I didn't expect was to run into Helen. Chapter 4. She was waiting at the gates of my university. The moment she saw me, she smiled with those beautifully curved eyes. Charming and delicate, almost ethereal. Thought I'd try my luck. Didn't expect to actually run into you. We found a nearby cafe. She twirled her keys absent-mindedly. Voice casual. I was with him for 2 years. I nodded. Expression calm. I know. She gave a short laugh. So Ryan actually told you everything. That night, Ryan had only said one thing. That he and Helen had been together. The rest. I asked Leonardo myself after Ryan went on a business trip. Helen was his first girlfriend. They grew up together. Dated during college for 2 full years. A love that was real. Once, she chased Ryan. She also dumped Ryan. Do you know why I broke up with him? She smiled and looked at me with a strangely gentle tone. Because he was annoying. He controlled me. Kept telling me what I could or couldn't do. Even talking to another guy would piss him off. I was done, so I left. I still remember when I said I wanted to break up. His eyes were red. He turned his back and said if I walked away, we'd be done for good. Back then, I loved my freedom more than I loved him. I hated being caged. So I walked away without hesitation. She paused, studying me. You're so well-behaved. Nothing like me. I thought Ryan would pull some cliché and go find a copy of me. But you study archaeology? That's such a niche field. Wouldn't it be better to study abroad? Polish your resume a bit. Then have the Ryans give you a cushy job in the company? Life doesn't need to be so hard. Her tone was light, even humorous, but she radiated self-assurance. To her, my 5 years with Ryan posed no threat at all. Ryan had said similar things to me before, but what I remembered most was her comment. You're too well-behaved. She and Ryan really were alike. Even their way of speaking. Ryan always liked to call me obedient. But disobedience comes with a price the poor can't afford. He didn't know because I was well-behaved. I earned a chance to study because I was well-behaved. I became the Ryan's sponsored student because I was well-behaved. I walked out of the mountains I was born into. I didn't have Helen's privilege. For me, rebellion was a luxury. So, Miss Helen, whatever history you two shared, I'm not interested. She looked at me. There was no hostility in her eyes. Then do you know why he chose you? The day he decided to be with you, I happened to start dating someone else abroad. Leonardo said he got drunk that night. After that, he had you. How do you describe the feeling in that moment? It was as if the dull ache in my chest suddenly turned into a blade. Twisting, stabbing, suffocating. I had always assumed Ryan's calm came from his nature. But no, his fire, his passion, he had given it all to someone else. I wasn't her replacement, but he had once truly loved her, in the most passionate years of his life. Still, I didn't come out of these 5 years empty-handed. At least I'd learned to master his skill, keeping every emotion hidden behind a perfect facade. Miss Helen, what exactly are you trying to tell me? I smiled lightly. If you want to marry Ryan, go talk to Ryan. No point wasting time on me. How ironic. She wasn't threatened by me, but she still hoped I'd back away voluntarily. Her expression faltered for a second, but quickly returned to normal. Ryan will marry me, and I won't allow any third party in that marriage. I had class to return to. No time to keep circling this pointless conversation. I nodded and stood up. It wasn't until I left the cafe that I realized my fingers were already embedded deep into my palms. Chapter 5. My time with Ryan was always out of sync. Not long after he returned from a business trip, I went out on another field study with my professor. By the time I saw Ryan again, 2 weeks had passed. The moment he saw me, he instinctively pulled me into his arms and asked if I had missed him. I murmured a quiet mem. Clearly, he was pleased with that answer. What followed was another round of reckless, unstoppable passion. When I woke again, the man beside me was still asleep, but he didn't seem to be resting well, his brow furrowed, as if something haunted him even in dreams. After all these years, he hadn't changed at all, just like the fact that I still loved him hadn't changed either. I truly fell in love with Ryan during my freshman year. That winter break, I lost the last family member I had in this world. I was raised by my grandfather. Even in his old age, he climbed the mountains to collect herbs, just to keep me in school. Later, thanks to the Ryan family's sponsorship, life had become easier for him. But then he fell ill, too afraid to distract me. He never told me. By the time a neighbor called, it was already my final chance to see him. I had no time to grieve. I busied myself with funeral preparations, numb and hollow. And then Ryan appeared. Just a week before, he had been on a business trip in Florence. Yet the next moment, he was there in front of me. I had never seen him so disheveled. Dust on his shoes, mud at the hems of his pants. He said nothing, just set down his luggage and helped with everything. After the funeral, he opened his arms and pulled me close. When he spoke, his voice was already hoarse. Cry, kid. I didn't know how long I wept in his arms. When I finally came back to myself, I found his hands were frozen red. He wiped my tears, whispering gently, Amelia, you still have me. Now, without realizing it, I reached out and smoothed the crease between his brows. Unexpectedly, Ryan stirred. He caught my hand, kissed it lightly, then tucked it into his embrace. Ryan, he hummed softly. But when he didn't hear me continue, he opened his eyes. Why did you suddenly stop talking? After a pause, I leaned closer to him. Can you hold me? He chuckled, still acting spoiled. He wrapped me in his arms, pressed a kiss to my hair, and soothed me. Go to sleep, Amelia. All these years, I had never once asked him the question that most lovers ask each other. Do you love me? Even just now, I had almost asked it, but I swallowed the words. A relationship that was unequal from the start. How could it ever be corrected later? Ryan, do you love me or not? Why is it that you're right here beside me, yet I can never seem to touch you? Just as I thought he was drifting back to sleep, his voice broke the silence. Tomorrow, come with me to Helen's house. I froze for a moment, then nodded. Some things come sooner, some later. But I had never been granted the right to escape them. Chapter 6. Every time I saw Helen, I was struck by how beautiful she was. And tonight was no exception. Her family was hosting a banquet, officially to celebrate her return from abroad. But everyone knew the real purpose, a matchmaking event, or more precisely, a recruitment drive for a future son-in-law. The upper class was a small circle. Rumors about her family's financial troubles had long been public. And with the sudden appearance of a younger brother, only 3 years her junior, Helen urgently needed to solidify her position. Ryan, are you really sure you don't love me? You know exactly what this banquet is about. Every time I asked to see you since I came back, you said no, but here you are tonight. You lied to me. You said it was over, but you still came. Ryan was quiet for a moment. When he finally spoke, his tone was tinged with impatience. Helen, I've made myself very clear. 5 years ago, I told you, once we broke up, we were over for good. I'm only here tonight out of formality for the sake of our families. You know better than anyone, I never go back to what's already done. A marriage between us is impossible. I stood not far away, watched as Helen's eyes turned red, only to harden again with pride. Fine, Ryan, you said it. She paused, voice trembling. Then I'll marry Leo, just like my father arranged. Hope you'll come to the wedding. From a business perspective, Leo was a suitable match. Old money, only heir, powerful. But Leo was a notorious playboy. Everyone in Beijing knew it. He was constantly in the tabloids for scandals, even rumored to have hit a celebrity ex. Then Ryan broke the silence. I heard him sigh. In his voice was a compromise, even if he hadn't realized it. Helen, stop this. Don't act like a child. Then what else am I supposed to do? She snapped. You told me I didn't need to be afraid as long as I had you. And right then, I froze. So he had said that to her too. I stood there and watched Helen test him, bit by bit. Watched her see if he still cared, after all these years. And it looked like she won. She pulled him into a hug, tightened her arms around him like she feared he'd vanish like fog. And Ryan didn't push her away. Even though her love was full of calculation, Ryan still chose to take it on, willingly. You see, love really is an unpredictable thing. It made someone as proud as Ryan bow his head, and made someone like me, so timid, learn to be brave. I looked at the bracelet he had gifted me just days ago, and suddenly laughed. A hollow, bitter laugh. Even I couldn't bear to hear it. That night, I texted Ryan, said something had come up at school and I left early. He didn't reply until past midnight. Just one word, okay. If it had been before, I might have told myself, this is just how he is. But ever since Helen came back, I realized, maybe he's only like that with me. Chapter 7. Ever since that night, I started avoiding Ryan. Said I was busy with my thesis, my professor's national research project. Anything to see him less. Ryan, a bit slow on the uptake, eventually noticed. He tried all kinds of ways to win me back. Necklaces, jewelry, even bought me an apartment near campus. When I received the keys, I had a fleeting thought. Maybe chasing money isn't such a bad thing after all. One day, Ryan messaged me while I was doing fieldwork in Xi'an. Which bag do you want? He asked. He was in Hong Kong at the time. He sent a photo, but I barely glanced at it. Replied half-heartedly, any is fine. When my screen lit up, I glanced at the one notification beside his profile, then turned off my phone and kept working. I forgot about it, until I reopened my phone, and saw that Helen had messaged me too, just 5 minutes after Ryan did. He came to try on wedding gowns with me. The photo showed Ryan looking at his phone, Helen standing in front of him, dressed in white. Amelia, your hand. Kevin's voice broke through. He had dropped his tools, eyes full of concern. That's when I looked down, and saw my hand was bleeding. A stone shard had cut me open. Let me disinfect it. Hold still, Amelia. Are you okay? Kevin pulled me out of the cave gently, but inside, my chest was full of frost and blades. I couldn't breathe. I clutched my chest, bent over, gasped, and cried. For the first time since Grandpa died, I cried. I should have stepped away when Helen reappeared, but I held on to that foolish, fragile hope. What if he really had moved on from her? But I knew Ryan too well. I saw the warmth hiding beneath his coldness toward Helen, saw how he was still bitter about being abandoned back then. That night, something inside me finally collapsed, and from that day on, I swore I would never cry for Ryan again. Chapter 8. The moment I opened the door, I saw the room piled with bags. At that moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I said anything is fine. And Ryan took it to mean by everything. Over the years, he had been generous with me, but it felt like he'd never actually chosen a gift with any real thought. You're finally back? Ryan had clearly been home a while, already changed into loungewear. The moment he saw me, he instinctively pulled me into his arms, his right hand wrapping around my wrist, placing it against his chest, so intimate, so natural. as if I were something he truly cherished. Ryan, let's end this. I thought the word end was appropriate. Even now, I wasn't sure if what we had could be called a proper relationship. If breakup was even the right word. He froze, but quickly composed himself. What nonsense are you saying this late at night? I said. Ryan, let's end this. From today on, I won't step into your place again. And surprisingly, saying it out loud wasn't that hard. In fact, I felt relieved. He let go of me, chest rising and falling, eyes locked on mine. Amelia, do you even know what you're saying? Take it back, and I'll pretend I didn't hear a thing. We both knew. Some things, once spoken, meant the heart was already cracked. We stood there in the living room, frozen in that strange, tense silence. Finally, I said, Ryan, you're getting engaged to Helen, aren't you? This Hong Kong trip wasn't just business. You went to try on wedding gowns with her, didn't you? Oddly, he calmed down at that. Her situation at home isn't good. After all these years, I couldn't just stand by and watch. Amelia, I'm not actually marrying her. It's just temporary. Even the engagement is just for show. Funny, really. The man I shared a bed with was getting engaged, and I was the last to know. I looked up at him, my voice icy. So it doesn't matter who you get engaged to. Doesn't even matter who you marry, right? I'm just supposed to smile through it all? He reached out, but I shook him off without hesitation. Amelia, what are you doing? I told you this doesn't affect us. We'll still be the same as before. When he said that, I froze. I looked at the man in front of me, his face so familiar, yet suddenly so unfamiliar. When did Ryan become this kind of person? And only then did I realize I had never truly known him. Ryan, what do you want me to be? Your secret lover? The other woman who can never be shown in public? You know that's not me. If you can't make a choice, then I will. We're done. Completely. I'm tired of loving someone who never truly responds, of standing alone in a canyon where only my echo answers. Maybe he did love me, but in some hidden corner of his heart, Helen would always be there. I no longer wanted to argue, so I brushed past him and began packing. His voice was cold. Where do you think you're going? Ryan, the night you chose to be with me, was it because Helen had gotten a new boyfriend? I looked at him and asked, yes or no? After a long pause, I heard him say it. Yes. Ryan, you disgust me. The next second, he yanked my wrist, pulled me toward him with a force that wasn't gentle. I looked up. His face, cold and unreadable, filled my vision. You think I saw you as some side woman? Who introduces a mistress to his friends? Who plans his schedule around a mistress's free time? For 5 years, I treated you well, and this is how you see me? Maybe we'd never had a real fight before, but now, he was furious. Ryan, we're done. He stood in the doorway, furious and silent. Then, after a long pause, he slammed the door and left. Not long after, I heard the sound of his car leaving the garage. That night, I packed everything, and without hesitation, threw away the keys to this place. Chapter 9. Since that day, I never saw Ryan again, but Leonardo started showing up more and more, seeing his countless hesitant glances. I spoke first. Leonardo, you can go back now. He was busy. He had no reason to circle around a student like me. His reason for coming was obvious. If not for Ryan, he wouldn't have come at all. Amelia, I heard you and Ryan had a fight. He gave me an awkward smile. I came to talk to you, honestly. He's been good to you. I've seen it over the years. I know you're not like the others in his eyes. I looked down at the document in my hand and replied indifferently. Helen isn't like the others either. Leonardo froze for a moment, but didn't argue. At that moment, I almost laughed. Even Ryan's friend clearly knew Helen's place in his heart. Leonardo, go back. I'm done with him, for good. Maybe in Ryan's eyes, it was just a fight. But for me, when I said it was over, it meant truly over. In the end, Helen didn't marry into Leo's family, because news of her engagement to Ryan was already everywhere. What I didn't expect was that I would become the new candidate for marrying into the Leo family. Amelia is part of the Ryan family. Ryan's second uncle said with a smile. We've treated her like a daughter all these years. Now that she's about to graduate with her master's, it's time to consider her future. Leo's family is a great match. He watched the old man's reaction carefully as he spoke. The old master had 3 sons and 1 daughter. The youngest daughter died early. This second uncle was average at best. He had a daughter, Ruby, from his first marriage. After his first wife died, he married a mistress and had a son. When I first arrived at the Ryan household, Ruby had just been sent abroad because she had slapped her younger brother. Now, Ruby had returned and reached marriageable age, but because she was his real daughter, he couldn't bear to force her, so I became the backup plan. So that's why second uncle suddenly invited me to dinner. No one in the room said a word, but all eyes glanced toward the old master. After a long pause, he looked at me and smiled. Amelia, go meet Leo. He had done so much for me. I couldn't say no. I nodded obediently. Okay, I'll do as Grandpa says. Chapter 10. In the restaurant. The man stood lazily with his hands in his pockets, eyelids drooping as he looked at me and went straight to the point. Miss, you're not my type. Good. I don't like men who beat women either. He hadn't expected my bluntness. For a moment he froze, then gave a roguish smile. So my reputation's even worse than I thought. But the domestic violence thing is fake, a setup by Capital. And those juicy scandals? I've heard plenty about you. Half true, half false. He paused, raised an eyebrow. To tell you the truth, I own an entertainment company, sometimes sacrificing my looks as part of the job. Leo looked like a carefree playboy but was nothing like the rumors. From birth he'd had top-tier education. No matter how casual his exterior, his inner refinement was impossible to fake. We ended up having an unexpectedly harmonious meal, thanks to his endless gossip about the entertainment world. As we stepped out of the restaurant, my phone rang. Grandfather asked me to come home. Will you be able to give them a good answer? If not, you can just say we're dating. I shook my head and refused decisively. Leo watched me with lazy amusement in his eyes. Fine, then let me at least drive you back. Standing outside Ryan's study, my heart felt heavy. After hesitating a while, I bit my lip and knocked. Come in. As soon as I entered, Grandfather smiled gently and pointed to the seat beside him. Amelia, do you know why I wanted you to meet that boy Leo? In Ryan's house I had gradually learned that wealthy families had unspoken rules, all for profit, and all about profit. Many of Ryan's friends' marriages were tightly tied to that word. Even though Helen's family had some problems, a dead camel is still bigger than a horse. The two of them were still considered a good match. Under Grandfather's gaze, I finally shook my head. Child, he patted my head, smiling. I never really planned to marry you off. I don't even like that brat. I was momentarily stunned. Amelia, I've never forced anyone of your generation to marry, because years ago I forced my own beloved daughter to do so, and she died. Over the years I had learned the story. Ryan's aunt was named Rita. She was his father's much younger sister, Grandfather's late-born darling. When the family hit trouble, Rita was forced into a business marriage. After years of domestic abuse she became depressed, and, in her 3rd year of marriage, jumped to her death. I've known about you and Ryan for a long time. I could close one eye and let you be together, or force Ryan's father to let you marry him. The reason I asked you to meet Leo was to help you see something clearly. Ryan's marriage with Helen was pushed by his father, hoping Ryan would gain more resources and cement his place in the family. But Amelia, you must understand, if Ryan had asked me, I would have supported him and broken off Helen's engagement. But Ryan never did. At last I understood why all those rumors about Ryan's arranged marriages had always ended in nothing, because no one had ever forced Ryan. Grandfather wanted me to know that, between Helen and me, Ryan had already chosen her. Amelia, from now on I won't send you to marry anyone, but you know this family. Your uncles value only profit. I hope you can have a life of your own, and one day marry someone who truly loves you. You're a smart child. I heard you've applied for a government scholarship to study abroad. Go. I suddenly remembered the day Ryan and I came home. When grandfather saw me lost and heartbroken, he'd said, "Amelia, from now on I'm your grandfather. I'll take his place and protect you." When I looked up now, grandfather's eyes were red. Only then did I realize how much older he'd become. "Amelia, will you still come see me in the future?" After a long silence, I knelt and bowed to him, then turned and left. Chapter 11. Back at school, I had just reached the gate when I spotted a familiar car. A few steps closer, and sure enough, it was Ryan. It hadn't been long since we separated. Yet seeing him again felt like a memory from another life. When he saw me, he rolled down the window and called out, "Amelia, come here." He only ever used my full name when he was upset, one of his rare emotional tells. I looked at him blankly, turned around, and kept walking toward the gate, clearly not expecting me to be so cold. He froze. I had planned to ignore him completely, but Ryan went borderline insane, honking repeatedly behind me. The constant blaring drew stares from everyone nearby. Helpless, I opened the car door and got in. "Ryan, are you crazy?" His face was dark with anger. His eyes filled with mounting fury. "Amelia, I think you're the crazy one. If Leonardo hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known. You went to meet Leo behind my back. Do you not know what kind of person he is?" Second uncle asked me to go. Grandfather agreed. Maybe it was my distant tone, as if we were strangers, that finally pushed Ryan over the edge. His face turned cold, lips pressed into a tight line. "They told you to go and you just went? Are you that obedient? You couldn't come to me first?" The truth is, I had tried to contact Ryan, but not to beg him to stop the meeting with Leo. I just wanted to return the keys to the apartment he had recently bought for me. I didn't want it anymore, but when I called, it was Helen who picked up. Her tone was calm and detached. "Since it was a gift from him, keep it. Consider it compensation for all the years you spent with him. Amelia, I heard you two broke up. If you need anything in the future, you can call me, whether it's money or connections. I'll help where I can." See? That's how condescending she is. She and Ryan are the same kind of people. In the past, I'd get upset when he went on blind dates. Each time, he'd calm me down with lavish gifts. That day, I finally saw things clearly, so I took the keys with a clear conscience and sold the apartment. Maybe because I didn't respond. Ryan's tone softened. "Amelia, it's been so long. Can we stop fighting? Come back with me. I really missed you." As he spoke, he tried to take my hand. I yanked it away. "Go back where? To the wedding house you and Helen picked out together?" So all this time, Ryan had just thought I was throwing a tantrum. He didn't understand, and still didn't know why I was so angry this time. Ryan frowned slightly. "I told you already. Helen and I are only married on paper. I need her family's resources. There's no real relationship anymore. We've known each other for years. But it's all just an exchange of benefits." When I first started dating Ryan, I couldn't understand how couples could appear loving in public but live separate lives privately. Back then he patted my head and said casually, "It's normal." Years later, the boomerang hit me in the chest. I don't know when Ryan started to rot. Maybe he always had. But I loved him so much, that it took me this long to see it. "Ryan, did you ever think about marrying me?" He froze. His mouth opened, but no words came out. And in that moment, I had my answer. I had prepared myself, but it still hurt like hell to hear it. "I loved you, but not enough to lose myself." Ryan, stop lying to yourself. If it were anyone else, you'd be firm. But because it's Helen, you go soft. You should ask yourself if you're still resenting her for coldly leaving you back then. Ryan looked dazed. He opened his mouth again, but still said nothing. "Ryan, today you came to yell at me for meeting Leo, but in the future, I might meet even more people like him, because I'm part of this family too. You can't handle me seeing other men. Yet you stay entangled with your ex. You're not some savior. Ryan, you chose Helen, so stop trying to save me. I don't need it, and frankly, it disgusts me." Ryan, Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. From now on, I hope I never see you again, because every time I see you, I'll remember that all these years, I was nothing more than your mistress. Chapter 12. Ever since that day, my life seemed to settle into peace. The rumors of Ryan's engagement to Helen were already making waves everywhere. Ruby told me that Helen constantly clings to Ryan, wishing she could stick to him like glue. But I feel like Ryan's different now. She said, he doesn't seem like he used to be with Helen. Maybe because I was in the picture in between. Occasionally, I'd still get calls from Leonardo, always hinting gently, trying to speak up for Ryan, even when trying to make peace. Ryan still managed to come off as arrogant. I was busy finishing my thesis, busy preparing my application for studying abroad, so I didn't hesitate at all to block anything and anyone related to Ryan. I sold off anything that reminded me of him, but I didn't expect that, as I was buried in my thesis. A 7-second video would send me straight to the trending topics. That day, someone had filmed the argument between me and Ryan outside the school gate and uploaded it online. At first, netizens just thought it was a couple quarreling, but as likes surged, people began digging into Ryan's background. Elite school, luxury cars, a rich heir entangled with a college girl. Everyone was intrigued. Soon, someone even dug up the news about Ryan's upcoming engagement to Helen. At that point, my position became painfully obvious. My undergraduate scholarship, my grad school research papers published in core academic journals, all were called into question. They even labeled me a homewrecker and an academic seductress. Truth mixed with lies. Lies that sounded like truth. Things spiraled out of control. The university had to step in and issue a public clarification. When I received Ryan's call, I had just finished the school's inquiry. Amelia, I'll take care of this. The person who posted the video, it was your roommate, Sabrina. His voice carried a hint of fatigue. I only replied mildly, It was, after all, a mess he started. I saw no reason to argue. Just as I was about to hang up, he asked slowly, Amelia, is it true you applied for a government scholarship to study abroad? Yes, it's true. Why didn't you tell me? These days had left me exhausted. I had no energy to fight him anymore. Ryan, I have my own life now. Just like you didn't tell me about your engagement to Helen, I have no obligation to tell you about my plans either. There was a long silence. So long I thought he had hung up. When he finally spoke again, his voice was hoarse. I've thought a lot lately. I'm going to cancel the engagement with Helen. Amelia, can you not leave? Or, if you must go abroad, we can stay together like before. I'll fly to visit you every week. Let's get back together, okay? I'll come get you right now. I didn't know how to describe what I felt at that moment. I only knew I was tired. Tired of watching him swing between Helen and me. Right then, I understood. Our love should have ended long ago. Helen was his youthful regret, and I was his habitual fallback. Ryan had grown used to having me around. What he really wanted was just to maintain this thing between us. Ryan, why bother? You know better than anyone that even if you call off the engagement, you and I can never go back. The moment you chose her, you gave up on me. I'm not your second choice, and I'm not someone you can wave back. When you regret things, expecting me to obediently return to your side, I didn't have time to argue anymore, because I had something far more important to do. Chapter 13. Amelia, are you okay? Just as I reached the dorm entrance, I ran into Kevin. I was surprised to see him there, especially standing outside the girls' dormitory, perhaps sensing my confusion. He scratched his head awkwardly and said, I went to the office to look for you just now, but you weren't there, so I figured I'd try my luck down here. I went home for a few days, and just got back to campus today. When I heard what happened to you, I wanted to check on you. Amelia, don't read the comments online, okay? A lot of netizens don't know the truth, yet they rush to pin the blame on you. The school will investigate your grades, your thesis, everything will hold up. Don't worry too much. And even though we're about to graduate, please don't overwork yourself. You're always in the office or the library. It's too much. Oh, and I brought you some local snacks from Nanching. Thought you might want to try them. He rambled on, trying his best to comfort me. I couldn't help but smile. Sorry, I guess I'm talking too much. He paused, embarrassed. I've never really comforted anyone before, so I might sound a little clumsy. Under the street lamp, his figure stood tall and sincere. In that moment, I finally understood why Ryan had seen right through Kevin's feelings from the start. Too bad. For all these years, my eyes were only ever on Ryan. Otherwise, how could I have missed the burning look Kevin always gave me? Kevin, do you believe me? He was startled by the sudden question, but nodded without hesitation. I believe you. I believe you more than anyone else. Because we're classmates. I smiled again, looking into his eyes. You like me, don't you? 5 years ago, Ryan had asked me the same question from inside his car, and the moment I said it, I realized I had used the exact same tone as Ryan, but I wasn't Ryan. Yes, I had been with him, but back then, he didn't have a fiancé yet. Kevin, thank you. You're a really good person, but love can't be forced, and I don't want to waste your time. If I had never met Ryan, maybe I would have had a sweet and simple campus romance. We'd hold hands around the track, study side by side in the library, scream our lungs out on roller coasters, but I missed that chance. I watched the light in Kevin's eyes slowly dim, watched him lower his head bit by bit, and just as I turned to walk into the dorm, I heard his voice behind me. Amelia, I've already liked you for this long. A little longer won't hurt. At worst, I'll just wait for you. Chapter 14. Just as I stepped onto the stairs, I bumped into the person I was looking for. The moment she saw me, she glanced at Kevin standing not far behind me, her expression awkward. And in that instant, I suddenly realized something. Sabrina, just the person I was looking for. I grabbed her arm and looked her in the eyes. Let's talk. She looked confused for a second, then hesitated, forcing a sheepish smile. I'm actually heading to the office to find my advisor. It won't take long. I ignored her refusal and pulled her firmly back to our dorm. The moment I shut the door, I slapped her. The air in the room froze. The other girls stood up immediately, startled. Amelia, what the hell? Who do you think you are slapping me? She clutched her face in shock, just as she raised her hand to strike back. I grabbed her wrist and shoved her backward. The others panicked, clearly not expecting this side of me. You want to know why I slapped you? I scoffed coldly. That viral video of me online. You were the one who filmed it, weren't you? Her face flinched, then quickly returned to normal. So what if I did? It was just a casual video. I didn't expect it to go viral. The other girls in the dorm were stunned. Sabrina, why would you film her without permission? Even if you filmed it, why upload it to the internet? I had the same questions. Sabrina and I had no real conflict. Why go out of her way to hurt me? But just a few minutes ago, when Kevin was talking to me downstairs, I happened to glance up at the dorm balcony. The second floor distance was just enough for me to recognize the person standing there. It's because you like Kevin, right? I laughed bitterly. I thought something was off. If you like him, just go confess. Why involve me? Wait, Sabrina, seriously? You targeted Amelia because Kevin rejected you? That's so low, and the way this whole thing blew up, it's gone too far. Not to mention your caption on the video. You knew exactly what tone you were going for. Everyone started criticizing her. Sabrina, who had played the victim a moment ago, suddenly snapped. Why are you all defending her? Don't you see how fake she is? 1 second she's involved with rich guys. The next she's leading Kevin on. What a snake. Amelia, who knows how you really got your guaranteed grad school spot? Or your journal publications, who knows if they're even legit? And in that moment, I truly understood what it meant, that the ones who wrong you most are the ones who know just how innocent you are. We shared a dorm, Our desks were just one room apart. She knew better than anyone that the rumors were false, but she chose to drag me through the mud anyway. So I didn't hesitate. I slapped her again. The sound was crisp and echoed through the dorm. I released her wrist. Sabrina, are you sure you want to hit back? My academic records and papers? They can take any investigation. That video? It's already been clarified. Turns out, I'm the granddaughter Mr. Ryan's grandfather adopted years ago, which makes Ryan my brother, on paper. Her hand stayed in the air, frozen, and that second slap? It never came down. Chapter 15. The day I left Beijing, the sky was cloudless and blue. There was 1 month left until Helen and Ryan's wedding. Out of the entire Ryan family, I only said goodbye to Grandpa. Just as I was about to leave, Grandpa asked me, Amelia, if Ryan ends up not marrying Helen, would you come back? I smiled and shook my head. Whoever he marries in the future, I will never look back. Grandpa chuckled softly, his eyes tinged with reluctance. Child, even your temper is just like your aunt's. Amelia, you are free now. I hate to see you go. But more than anything, I want you to be happy. On the plane to London, I gazed out at the white clouds floating in the blue sky. I thought, that aunt I never met must have been someone truly wonderful. Thanks to a slight resemblance to her, I was granted a little extra protection and a few more strokes of luck. After landing, it took some time to adjust to London's weather and food. Before school officially began, I wandered around the city and took in the sights. One midnight, on a whim, I booked a ticket to Italy. In the long gallery of the Uffizi Gallery, time exists eternally, captured in paint. Botticelli suspended spring in a moment just before the petals fall, and the dawning of humanism is forever frozen within the frame. It was in that moment I realized, compared to love, there are so many more things in life worth chasing. The entire holiday, I lived quite comfortably, funded by the designer bags, diamonds, and apartment Ryan once gave me. I sold them all, so much so that on the first day of class, I was late, rushing into the classroom and finding a seat. I looked up and found someone familiar sitting beside me. When our eyes met, his lips curved up ever so slightly. Long time no see, Amelia. I waited so long. I thought I might have gone to the wrong school. Only then did I remember what Kevin said when we graduated. Amelia, we'll see each other again. My days in London were light and fulfilling. Academic pressure came and went. Kevin always said, the best way to relieve stress is to get close to nature. He often dragged me out to hike mountains. As for Ryan, in the end, he didn't marry Helen. Of course not. Helen was far too proud. Just like me. She couldn't accept sharing space in Ryan's heart. At first, Ryan kept calling me, when I blocked every number. He changed phones, IPs, found new ways to message me. Eventually, I noticed his location often appeared in London. He asked repeatedly if we could meet, and every time, I refused, until one day, I went downstairs to grab a bottle of water, and opened the door, to find him standing in the snow. His nose was red from the cold. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, but soon after, panic set in as he stammered, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, but I missed you so much. It's snowing so heavily today. I just wanted to see you and say something in person. Amelia. I've never stood in the snow this long before. It's really cold. I looked at him and sighed. Ryan, did you ever love me? His eyes reddened, and he nodded. After all these years, I finally got the answer I had once longed for. But I no longer loved him. Ryan, I don't regret the years we spent together. It was only 5 years. I'll have many more 5-year chapters in this life. I raised my hand, revealing the ring on my finger. Ryan, I'm getting married. Please don't contact me again. That moment, he panicked. He tried to grab my hand and asked over and over if I was lying. I stayed silent. After a long time, he broke down crying, like a child who'd done something wrong. Can't we go back to how we were? But Ryan, the mountains are high. The rivers are long. You and I end here. That night, I added him back on WeChat. True letting go is silent. I had long stopped caring. Chapter 16. When I opened the door, I was startled. Kevin was curled up on the couch with the stray kitten we'd rescued from the park. Maybe it was the quiet loneliness in him that rubbed off on the kitten too. The two of them, huddled together on the sofa, looked so pitifully fragile. "You're awake?" I asked as I walked over. The moment he saw me, the tension on his face eased. His voice was a little hoarse. "I thought you left." Looking at his sulky little expression, I couldn't help but laugh. I leaned in and hugged him. "Did you see him?" He nodded and took my wrist in his hand, slowly intertwining our fingers. "If I really chose to leave with him, would you let me go?" I teased him deliberately. After a long silence, he finally answered, "I'd let you go, Amelia, if it meant you'd be happy. I would respect whatever choice you made." Yet he still held my hand tightly, as if afraid I might disappear the next second. I buried myself in his arms and whispered, "Don't worry, I won't leave. I'm not the type to abandon my man and child." London loved to rain, and I always forgot my umbrella. When did I really start dating Kevin? One night, I opened my office window and noticed it was drizzling outside. I resigned myself to walking home in the rain, but as I opened the door, I saw Kevin standing in the hallway. I didn't know how long he had waited there. His clothes were half soaked. The moment he saw me, he stood up and handed me the umbrella. "You looked so focused. I didn't want to bother you, but I guess you'd forget your umbrella again." What if I hadn't? That's okay. I just used that as an excuse to walk you home. Not all love stories need to be grand. Sometimes, a single glance from the person you love, with a smile in their eyes, is more than enough. In Kevin's world, I was the only one at the top of his list. That was all I needed. Eventually, Kevin and I returned to Nanjing for work. His parents were both university professors. When I met them, I finally understood where Kevin got his gentle, composed nature. They were nearing retirement. But when they saw Kevin bring me home, they were genuinely delighted. In the end, both Kevin and I accepted teaching positions at Nanjing University. During our first summer break, we stayed up late chatting about campus gossip. And on a whim, we booked flights to Hong Kong. The next day, while passing a bridal shop, Kevin pulled me inside to try on dresses. When I walked out in a wedding gown, his eyes turned red. "Can we get married early?" he asked. "Let's go get the license as soon as we get back. I don't want to wait anymore." The store assistant casually snapped a photo of me, and later sent it to me. I posted it to my social media. That night, when I opened my phone, I saw Ryan had left a comment underneath. "Congratulations." Chapter 17. When I received Ryan's call again, it was the second year after my marriage. I had just finished a lecture. On the other end of the line, Ryan's voice was slightly panicked. He asked if I could come home. Grandpa had been admitted to the ICU. That same day, Kevin and I booked a flight and rushed back to Beijing. The moment Grandpa saw me, he grabbed my hand tightly, his eyes red with tears. At that point, his mind was already muddled. Sometimes he called me Amelia, and sometimes Rita. So many years had passed, but the death of his youngest daughter remained a thorn in his heart. One morning, he seemed more lucid than usual. Kevin and I wheeled him outside to sit in the sun. He held my hand, his eyes clear for the first time in a long while. In that moment, he looked like the man I first met. But now, his hair was completely white. "Amelia, thank you for showing up in my life. Every time I see you, I feel like Rita never really left me. Back then, your grandmother died giving birth to Rita. Her last words to me were, 'Take care of our daughter.' But I failed her. All these years, I've lived in regret. I used to value profit above all else. And in the end, I lost my daughter because of it. Do you think, when I finally go down there, she'll blame me? I was the one who loved her most, but I ended up hurting her the worst." After that, he fell silent. Kevin and I could no longer hold back our tears. At 6 p.m. that evening, Grandpa's condition suddenly worsened. Just before entering the ICU, he grabbed Kevin's hand. His voice was hoarse and frail. "Please, Take care of my granddaughter. That night, he passed away. After the funeral, a lawyer came to Ryan's home to read the will. No one had expected Grandpa to leave me 5% of the company's shares. The moment the announcement was made, second uncle exploded with anger and questioned everything. In the end, it was Ryan who made the final call. The day Kevin and I left Beijing, Ryan insisted on taking us to the airport. At the security checkpoint, I instinctively turned around and saw him still standing there, rooted to the spot. Our eyes met. I remembered the many times I had clung to him at the airport during his business trips. How I'd stand there watching his back as he disappeared through security. He never once looked back. But this time, I smiled at him politely. Then I turned and left, Kevin's hand tightly in mine. On the plane, Kevin leaned against my shoulder and fell asleep. There were dark circles under his eyes. He had worked even harder than me these past few days. Suddenly, I recalled our first year together. That year, on Qingming Festival, I took him to visit the grave of the grandfather who raised me. I told him all about my past. He had been silent for a long time that day, but then he knelt in front of the grave and said firmly, "I swear, I will never let Amelia be wronged in this life." Outside the airplane window, the light pierced the clouds like a golden path. Below the clouds, the mountains and lakes stretched endlessly. Looking back at the first half of my life, it wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. And now, it's just right.